The next thing that I would need to update is the query. You see that it appears red, and it means that the query is not tested successfully. There is a default query, however, it's up to you to decide whether this is the query that you would like to use. The default query would take from your organization all users and filter those users for users that have their account enabled. And if you continue to scroll to the right, you can see that the user type has to be a member, and it selects only the first 10 of that group. Let me quickly stop here and explain what top is 10 is really doing. Because obviously we don't want to synchronize only the first 10 users that this query will return. Instead, we would like to synchronize all users. However, a web server that runs our WordPress website will not be able, in most cases, to process all users at once. Most web servers are configured with a certain timeout limit, and after 30 seconds or 60 seconds or 90 seconds, they will simply stop with the processing of a request. And if that would be the case, user synchronization will simply not complete. Therefore, WPO 365 will process the results of your query in batches. And this top is 10 basically defines the batch size. So WPO 365 will process the first 10 users that are returned from this query, and then it will create a WP cron job to process the next 10 results of this query. Therefore, it is important that WP cron is running almost continuously on your website. And this is normally not the case. There is a separate tutorial on how you can ensure that WP cron is running almost continuously, or is at least executed once every minute. And now you understand that this is important, because if you want to synchronize, let's say 1000 users, and your batch size is 10, then obviously the system needs to process 100 batches before this user synchronization job completes. If every minute one batch is processed, the processing of all users will take up 100 minutes. Let's continue and test our query. Therefore, I click the test query button, and it will show the first 10 users that are returned from the query. If I want to see the next 10, I can click the more button. I click to close the preview window, and what I can see is that I have successfully tested the query and that I can now continue with the configuration of my first user synchronization job. One more thing about testing your query. If the query is not returning the results that you would expect, then I recommend that you take this query to the Microsoft Graph Playground, the Microsoft Graph Explorer. The Microsoft Graph Explorer allows you to test your query and to analyze the result. To do so, however, make sure that first you are logged in with an account for your tenant. Let's test one query. Just to give you an example, I select the beta version of the Microsoft Graph API, and I would like to see the results if I search for all users. I can run the query. I can also see what happens if I would add a filter clause, for instance. So I would say the filter is, I would say account enabled equal true. Again, I can run that query. If I would make an error, for instance, if maybe I say account equal true as a string, it will say that it is an invalid filter clause. So it helps me to test the query and find possible errors in that query. Another option is that I would say maybe I want to filter for a certain department. Maybe I want to say where department equals communications. Let's run that query. Let's see what that returns. One other option that I would like to show here is how you can get the members of a specific Azure AD group. To build that query, we can simply, first of all, look at the available groups, for instance. So I say run query, and this gives me a list of all the groups in my current Azure AD. Now let's find a group that has some users in it. There's a group here, all users. That sounds good. Let's take the ID of that group, and then I can add that ID to my query. So if I now run the query again, I will only get this group as a result. And if I want to see the members of that group, I can actually continue and I can say transitive members. And transitive members are all members that are a direct member of this group or that are a member of a group that is a direct member of this group. And that goes on and on. So let's run the query. And you can see that it now returns users instead of groups. And I can actually take this query, starting with groups, and I return to the WPO 365 user synchronization job editor, and I replace the query, and I click to test it, and it does return users. So that's great. Let's take this query and let's continue with the configuration of our user synchronization job.